Imagine standing before a medieval timber frame that has survived 600 years through plague, war, and relentless weather that crumbles stone and corrodes iron. Yet all around it, the world has turned to dust. How did medieval builders accomplish what seemed impossible? How did they defy the one enemy that consumes all timber: decay? For centuries, a mysterious concoction existed in medieval workshops. It was a dark dip applied to timber before construction, something that smelled of tar and resin, pulled from the earth itself. Chronicles mentioned it in passing. Master builders guarded its composition. Structures built with it stood while others fell to rot. But what was in this forgotten formula? Could it truly act as a fungicide? This is the story of how medieval craftsmen, without microscopes or chemistry, discovered the fundamental principles of wood preservation. Wood is not solid. It is a matrix of cellulose fibers bound by lignin filled with capillaries. When fungal spores land on damp wood, they send filaments into these pathways and secrete enzymes that break down the compounds, giving wood its strength. Medieval builders watched this destruction for centuries and asked a simple question: how can we stop it? Medieval texts offer tantalizing clues. They speak of timber dips, applied in hot and cold baths, of dark oils and mysterious salts. Archaeological excavations reveal deposits of unusual compounds in well-preserved structures. The builders knew something. Through trial and observation, they discovered that certain preparations dramatically extended wood's life. They simply did not know why, only that it worked. The most significant formula involved creosote, specifically Stockholm tar, a dark byproduct of controlled wood distillation. The most significant formula involved creosote, specifically Stockholm tar, a dark byproduct of controlled wood distillation. Wood was stacked and covered, then slowly burned in a manner that drove off volatile compounds without consuming the logs. The liquid dripping from this process was a complex mixture, dark, pungent, and mysteriously effective. Master builders would heat this tar and plunge timber into it, allowing the preparation to penetrate the wood's grain. Other recipes incorporated mercuric compounds derived from natural deposits or alchemical processes. Medieval builders recognized that certain mercury salt preparations rendered wood impervious to rot. This method, later formalized as the kyanizing process, was remarkably effective, though at a cost we now understand to be catastrophic. Medieval craftsmen also experimented with natural oils. Linseed oil, boiled and thickened, was applied to exposed wood, and it would harden into a seal that made the wood hydrophobic. They understood, almost intuitively, that by repelling water, they could deny fungi the moisture it required to grow. They also made choices rooted in observation. Certain trees, oak, ash, and cypress, were inherently more resistant to decay than others. Medieval builders selected heartwood from these species, understanding instinctively that these timbers contained natural compounds that inhibited rot. They also practiced charring, deliberately burning the outer surface to create a protective crust of charcoal that resisted fungal invasion. When modern chemistry examines these ancient recipes, it discovers something remarkable. The medieval builders were in many respects correct. Creosote is indeed a fungicide. It's not just a single chemical, but actually a mixture of hundreds of compounds, hydrocarbons, phenols, and tar acids that, together, create an environment that's really hostile to fungal growth. The phenolic compounds within it, molecules like carvacrol and vanillin, are, well, toxic to the enzymes fungi use to decompose wood. They disrupt the fungal cell wall and interfere with the organism's metabolism. But, creosote's protection extends beyond just toxicity. When timber is immersed in hot creosote, the tar penetrates the wood's capillaries, saturating the grain. As it cools, it hardens into an oily barrier that repels water. And here's the key: fungi require moisture to grow. Without water, they simply can't establish themselves. By creating a hydrophobic seal, creosote accomplishes something equally important as chemical toxicity. It starves the fungus of the moisture upon which its survival depends. Mercuric chloride operates through a fundamentally different mechanism. When timber is steeped in dilute mercuric chloride, the mercury ions migrate into the wood, binding to organic compounds. These ions are, frankly, extraordinarily toxic to fungi. The timber becomes a poisoned substrate. Fungi can't establish themselves because the wood itself becomes lethal. This method was devastatingly effective, but the cost was enormous, and, well, hidden mercury is not simply toxic to fungi, it is toxic to all life. Medieval builders could not have known this. They only knew that it worked. Natural extractives present in heartwood from oak and cypress operate on yet another principle. Natural extractives present in heartwood from oak and cypress operate on yet another principle. These are naturally occurring polyphenols and tannins, organic compounds trees produce to defend themselves against decay. Medieval builders, by selecting these timbers, were essentially choosing wood that had already been chemically armed by nature. Charring represents a different approach. When wood burns to charring, the organic compounds fungi feed upon are converted into carbon, essentially inert. The charred surface becomes a protective crust, hostile to microbial colonization. The charring process also drives moisture from the wood, creating a surface that is both chemically and physically resistant to decay. So, to understand the medieval timber dip, let's try to visualize what happens at the microscopic level, where wood degradation actually takes place. When creosote-treated timber is examined under magnification, we see that the dark tar has filled the capillaries, effectively blocking the pathways through which fungal hyphae would normally penetrate. Moisture that would be drawn up through the wood, providing the humid environment fungi require, is instead repelled by this hydrophobic barrier. At the same time, any fungal spore contacting the treated surface encounters phenolic compounds, which are directly toxic to the spore's cell wall. In the end, protection operates on three levels: physical blockage, moisture denial, and chemical toxicity. Mercury-treated wood, well, it operates a bit differently. The mercury ions saturate the wood completely, making the entire timber a biocidal environment. Here, the protection depends less on keeping moisture away, since mercury-treated wood can absorb water without succumbing to decay, and more on the fundamental hostility of the wood to fungal life itself. Charred wood operates through substrate removal. Fungi, after all, consume organic matter. Charred wood is, at its surface, mostly carbon, inorganic, inedible, and really quite useless to decay organisms. Charring also drives moisture deep into the timber, leaving the outer surfaces dry. Medieval builders, through centuries of accumulated experience, had discovered the fundamental principle: wood can be preserved by making it hostile to the organisms that destroy it. They had found that preservation could be achieved through physical barriers, chemical toxicity. Medieval builders, through centuries of accumulated experience, had discovered the fundamental principle: wood can be preserved by making it hostile to the organisms that destroy it. They had found that preservation could be achieved through physical barriers, chemical toxicity. The medieval timber dip has largely been forgotten in the age of modern fungicides, yet ancient approaches are experiencing renewed interest among historians and sustainable builders. Creosote, while replaced by selective fungicides, remains one of the most effective and longest-lasting wood preservatives available. Its complexity, being a mixture of hundreds of compounds rather than a single synthetic molecule, may be precisely what makes it so durable. Fungi have difficulty developing resistance to such complex mixtures. Natural extracts from heartwood species are experiencing renewed investigation for sustainable preservation. We might harness the ancient formulas that evolution has written into wood rather than introducing synthetic chemicals into the environment. The Japanese technique of shosugi-ban, charring wood to preserve it, has become popular in contemporary sustainable architecture, offering preservation without chemical application. Standing before a timber frame 6 centuries old teaches a profound lesson. The wood is protected not by patents or proprietary formulations, but by knowledge so old it is forgotten, by compounds so simple they were abundant, by understanding so fundamental that it still works today. The medieval timber dip is a monument to patient human ingenuity, the kind that emerges from observation, tradition, and the willingness to preserve things for posterity. History is not merely a record, it is a catalogue of solutions to problems that still confront us. Today, as we face the environmental costs of our building practices, we might find unexpected wisdom in the craft of medieval builders. They knew how to make things endure, they knew how to preserve without destroying. History is not merely a record, it is a catalogue of solutions to problems that still confront us. Today, as we face the environmental costs of our building practices, we might find unexpected wisdom in the craft of medieval builders. They knew how to make things endure, they knew how to preserve without destroying. If you found this journey compelling, subscribe to The Lost Tactician. We explore where history, craft, and endurance intertwine, the lessons time has written into the structures around us. Like this video, share it with others who appreciate the depth of human knowledge, and join us as we continue to unearth the secrets history keeps.